Hi, this is Greg, and welcome to A Minute in the Cloud with Greg's on day 15. And I can't believe it's been 15 days. Let me just do a little adjustment here on my camera. I'm going to have to try and improve these broadcasts. Well, it looks like I'm doing them regularly, right? So today, I thought I would talk a little bit about insurance transportation providers. And I've got several health problems, and I have to make some notes because of my memory. So I have several health issues. Frequently, I need to go to doctors or specialist appointment visits. Since I don't have a car of my own right now, and in fact, I was told by the doctors to avoid driving. I was my memory was getting me lost and things like that. But anyway, I can't afford taxis, so I rely on the transport that's provided by the insurance company. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm really, really grateful that that's an option and that that's available. But the rides are often unpleasant. And it feels like patients are treated almost as third-class citizens or inanimate objects. That's especially true when you're in a wheelchair. So today I'm going to share one or two of the experiences. And with having ADHD and the brain injury, I might jump about a little bit. You just have to bear with me, and I apologize for that. But one time, I remember being picked up for an appointment. The vehicle was extremely dirty, which is quite common on the inside and the outside. And there was used face masks, discarded face masks on the floor, and empty soda cans. There was drink cups, food wrappers, and what looked like powdered chalk debris kind of scattered everywhere. The dashboard was so dirty, you could see smudge marks where someone had tried to adjust the dials on the dashboard, and they'd obviously missed, and there was like finger imprint marks in the grime on the dashboard where they'd missed the buttons. Big crack across the windshield, 3/4 of the way across. And it smelled really bad. It was, if I had to guess, I would say it was like a combination of body odor and dirt, if I had to guess. And this isn't uncommon with insurance transportation. The shocks and the suspension on the vehicle definitely needed repair. The ride, oftentimes is the case. The ride's so bloody uncomfortable. So not just slightly uncomfortable either. I'm talking about physical pain. Have a spinal cord stimulator to try and help with the spine pain. And I take, strong pain medicine and stuff as well. And even that with the bumps, it's like you're in physical pain and tensed. It's bloody terrible. So, and then on top of that, you oftentimes the drivers will be very erratic in the driving manners. Living in Ohio, it doesn't help. Our roads are notorious here for having potholes, more like bloody craters than potholes. And it was evident that whoever owned the vehicle and the company, they didn't care about keeping it clean or hygienic. And, that could be a really bad issue. There are patients who go to dialysis and patients with immune system compromises and things like that could get very sick from riding in such an environment. I mean, thank God that's not a problem for me. But and then many times the music in the vehicle is excessively loud. Now, as someone who suffers from migraine headaches, I find that loud music, especially when it's a heavy bass beat, you can feel the vibrations in your chest. The bass is so deep and loud, boom, boom. It can trigger headaches. It can lead to migraines if I'm not careful. During my last appointment, prior, not the one today, I'll tell you about that in a minute, but my last appointment, the driver pulled up with the music blaring, and he did lower it a little bit as he pulled up. But unfortunately, I was put in the back of the vehicle, as often as the case when you're in a wheelchair. Sometimes they're like people carriers, you'd call them in England, like, what do they call them here? Like a caravan, right? And sometimes they have a ramp that you go up the side in your wheelchair, and so you kind of sat sideways on, kind of in the middle, right? But sometimes the ramp comes out the tailgate, and when you go in, you're actually sat where the luggage would go. So that was the case on my last ride. I was sat where the luggage would be sat, and there's two speakers right behind me, above my head, but slightly behind my head, like right by my ears. And I started to feel nauseous and almost disoriented. And then on top of that, it was rap music, and every other word, there was lots of racial slurs, the N word this and N word that, and bitch, suck this, and horrible, horrible, horrible stuff. And it was really uncomfortable. So I decided to ask the driver, would you mind adjusting the balance on the speaker so it's a little bit quieter in the back? I get migraine headaches. I hope you don't mind. And he kind of messed around with some buttons on the dash. He said, "Oh, I don't know how to do that." But he kind of turned it down a bit when he pulled up. So I don't know. Maybe the volume switch disappeared between then and me asking. Who really knows? Oftentimes the drivers are pretty unprofessional, and a lot of the time they don't secure my wheelchair in. You're supposed to be anchored 2 points on the front and 2 points on the back to secure your wheelchair in case you have an accident, right? And I have a seatbelt in my wheelchair. That's great and all, but the chair needs to be secured. I've actually been tipped over in my wheelchair more than once, and I have to ask if they would secure me. And when that happens, I'm sure that there's a couple of the drivers, they get upset that you ask them, or you're making them do extra work, and they start speeding up and driving really, really fast, and like sharply making turns or going around bends or slamming the brakes on when there's no need to do that. I mean, it's like, all right, you asked us to do something, and we're gonna do this now. Like you pissed them off or something, and they're gonna punish you. So and then on top of that, I've missed numerous doctor's appointments, because the company didn't come, many times, or my aides fastened me in instead, when the vehicle's been in transit. And then another thing that I've experienced, when you call the transportation number, the booking number that's given to you by the insurance company, you're required to give all your details to make sure that you're the policyholder, and that's necessary. It's a security measure, and as such, it's appreciated. But it's a lengthy process, and when you call, the representative will answer your call, but then they'll put you on hold. They'll contact the dispatcher, who's also with the insurance company, who'll then contact the transportation provider's dispatch, who will then contact the driver. It's very elongated. So if, like today, when the transportation fails to show up on time, you're instructed at that point, oh, well, you'll have to talk to the dispatcher directly. But when they put you on hold and they transfer the call, they don't tell the dispatcher what's been going on, and they cold transfer the call. So you get a new person and they're, "Hello, thank you for calling. May I have your name, please?" And you've got to start all over from the beginning. "Yep, my name is this, and this is where I live." And then you've got to remember, and it's hard sometimes having ADHD and a brain injury. Memory is a problem. And then I've got to remember everything that's happened that I've already told the other person, and then remember what happened when I talked to them and what they told me. And it's so lengthy and frustrating. So, it's kind of frustrating, especially with the memory problems. Once a driver was 3.5 hours late picking me up to go home. And I'm not joking. I'd finished my appointment, and they say they'll come within 60 minutes, and 3.5 hours later. And when he got there, it took so long that they said, "Oh, we'll get another company to come. It looks like they're not showing up." And when he got there, he told me it was my own fault for calling the insurance company instead of him directly. Well, that's something that the insurance company specifically tell you, don't do that. They instruct you to call them directly and not to talk to anyone else. But what will happen is individual drivers or the transport companies, they'll tell you to call them when you're ready to call home, and which sounds great. You think, oh yeah, it'll be quicker. But then when they don't show up or they arrive, really late, there isn't a record of it because you never called the insurance companies, transportation company. So that's a way of them avoiding receiving complaints about showing up late and stuff like that, because there's no record. And then of course when they evaluate, if everyone did what you're supposed to do and you called and you told the insurer, I'm ready to go home now, they log it. And so when the contracts came to get renewed, they would see all these late things, and hopefully you would think they would maybe consider whether that was their provider that they wanted. But they circumvent that by having you call them. So yeah, he told me it was my own fault that I'd been waiting 3.5 hours. And I told him specifically, look, the insurance companies told me not to do that, and I'm supposed to call them, and that's what I did. And I said, I don't have your number anyway. Besides, I don't have your number. And I was like really hot. I was parched. He got really confrontational and he insisted that I had his number because he'd called me earlier in the day to told me that he would be there to pick me up soon when he brought me to the appointment. And I tried to explain to him again, look, the insurance companies told me I've not to do that. I have to call them. And I've got memory problems. I don't remember your number. I'm really sorry. It was so stressful. The doctor's office had closed by this point. I was outside. The weather was really hot. I had nothing to drink, nowhere to go to get out the heat. And I lost my composure. I'm not proud of it. And I said, for the umpteenth time, I don't have your effing number. Well, what happened next was insane. Instead of de-escalating anything, he called his office and he said that I threatened him and he was afraid for his life. My health aide was with me and she was yelling at him to stop this. And then he said that she was threatening him as well and he was afraid for his life. Well, I was already in his vehicle at that point and partially secured, and a car that must have belonged to a person who works in the building. There was still a car in the parking lot, and this taxi driver had parked, she was this way and he'd parked and they couldn't get out. And so the ramp was down in the vehicle. He started to, I'm partially strapped in, and he started to move the vehicle and he's still screaming that he was afraid for his life and he was being threatened. Well, the wheelchair ramp was still down and on the ground when he moved the vehicle. Sparks were flying everywhere coming off that as it scraped along the parking lot. I felt really unsafe and in danger, and it was disorienting. It was just insane. And was he trying to put me in danger on purpose? Where was he going? Was he trying to go off with me? And partially secured in my wheelchair. I didn't have a way out. I guess at least it started to secure me. But anyway, the point is I felt trapped in his vehicle. The sliding door where the wheelchair ramp came out was wide open. My health aide shouts, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I tried to unsecure the wheelchair. But while I was trying to do that, I gashed my hand open sometime. I don't know what happened. He eventually stopped the vehicle after he kind of moved backwards and forward a bunch of times. I don't know what the hell he was doing. Anyway, I managed to get out and I freed myself after he'd stopped moving the vehicle. And then when I got out, he folded up the ramp really quick and sped off like a crazy person. So yeah, at that point I was in tears, to be honest, bleeding all over the bloody place. And anyway, the lady whose car it was that was trying to get out, she was really nice and she gave me some napkins, and I was able to stop the bleeding. Well, what made me prompt this wasn't really any of that. It was today I missed another appointment with my pain specialist because her eye didn't show. My appointment time was 10 a.m. and they tell you be ready an hour before your appointment, plus or minus 15 minutes. it's a 30-minute ride to this particular doctor's. So I called them just after 9 to get an estimated time of arrival, and they said they'll check the location, and then they said, oh, they'll be there in 10 minutes. And 15 minutes later, nobody had showed. So I called them again and I explained, the 30-minute thing. It was a 30-minute drive. They said, oh, probably the transport company is going to call you. And after a bit, they did call me, and then they said, oh, we'll be there in 10 minutes. And I started to try and tell him, look, it's a 30-minute ride. And he hung the phone up on me. So it was like very frustrating. So I called my doctor and I said, look, this is what's going on. If I get there a little bit late, which it was looking like I would at this point, would they still see me? I mean, they were really very nice at the doctor's office and very understanding and accommodating. And they're aware that there's transportation issues, but she said that today the doctor was really busy. Now, if I'm 10 minutes late, he'll still see me, but if I can't get there, if it's 10 minutes after my appointment time, he won't be able to see you any later than that. Excuse me one moment. So while I was doing this, my health aide got on Google Maps, and she made sure that, how far the ride was, just to make sure. And they didn't show. So I called the insurance company and told them, look, they're still not here, and I'd need to cancel now, because even if they showed up right there and then, there's no way that they would have got me there on time, even if they would have broke the speed limit. There was just no way. And she said, oh, well, you can't cancel the ride. I'm like, what do you mean I can't cancel? They're not even here, and they're not going to get me there on time. She said, well, you got to talk to the dispatcher. So another call transfer, and the lady at dispatch assured me that's not the case. You don't need to talk to us to cancel. Her exact words were, well, that's a lie. But anyway, I called the doctor's office to reschedule. It was 10 o'clock now, and my appointment was at 10 o'clock. Then just before I called the insurance company to tell them what had happened, the actual company and not the insurance transport, but member services, right before I called them, exactly 10:03 a.m. it was, someone called and said, oh, it's transportation and we're outside to take you to the appointment. And I'm like, my appointment was at 10 a.m. I had to cancel. It's a 30-minute, and click, they hung up on me again. So, wow. So, yeah, that's the third appointment with this doctor, with this pain specialist that I've missed because of the transport. And if they wanted to enforce their office policy, they would be really within the rights and not unreasonable to discharge me from the practice for missing appointments all the time, 3 times, and getting there late a bunch of times because of transportation. Or, charging $50 no-show fees, because they can't bill the insurance when you don't show up, and they set time for you. They are a business at the end of the day, but they're very reasonable. The thing of it is, if you're going to continually miss appointments with a doctor, you don't want that to be with a doctor who prescribes you controlled pain medication. It could look like that you were playing games with them, that maybe you're worried that you're going to fail a drug test, so you fabricated a bunch of excuses to, as to why you can't make your appointment today, in case you're going to fail a drug screen because you didn't take your medicine, or there's not enough in your system, you've sold it, or there's too much, you're abusing it. But obviously that's not true in their understanding, but, it certainly could be the case. So they're going to see me next Thursday. Thankfully, I have enough medication to last until then, and that's only sheer luck. I've lost track of the number of times that I've missed appointments because no one showed up or got me there late, and the doctor couldn't see me, and he had to take me right back home. Surgeries as well. And so after today's experience, excuse me, now they've given me a special number that I need to call going forward for rides. And the problem is that if you try and ask for a specific company, a specific, transportation company, even if they say, yeah, we'll send the one that you've asked for, because there are a couple of good companies out there. They'll say, yeah, we've put notes in your account and we'll send, you know, this particular company or that particular company. But at the end of the day, you just get whoever they decide to send. And not once have they sent the company that I asked for. It's been a couple of years since I've sent them. As I said, there's a couple of good companies. The vehicles are well maintained. They're clean inside and out. The drivers drive very safely. They're secure. You feel valued. You feel like you're not an inanimate object, and you feel, you know, you don't feel like a piece of meat. You feel like a person. So yeah, and then not to mention that experience of being 3.5 hours late. I was telling you about, to go home. That's not uncommon to make you wait for hours. And I've actually been left stranded at an appointment before with no way to get home. And I've called them and like, well, we don't know how you got there. We can't pick you up. And it's like, oh no. And it's so late in the day, my health aid's left for the day, and I'm stuck with no way home in a wheelchair. As luck would have it, this particular time, I called my health aide. I'm like, is there anything, you know? And she had a vehicle that, you know, would fit the chair in, and she came and got me. I was really lucky. So fortunately, she picked me up. So I guess you could say this is one of those occasions when having a brain injury and memory problems can sometimes be a blessing, and I really do mean that. There's just so many problems with insurance transport. So if I remembered everything, it wouldn't be good. So sometimes it's good not to remember. So today I'm grateful for memory problems. Sounds a little odd, but with the luck I have, it's good. On the opposite side of that, the things that you wish you could forget remind you at 3 a.m. in the morning that they're still there. So what are you grateful for today, my friends? What are you grateful for? Let me know in the comments, along with any topics that you'd like me to talk about, any ways I might improve these videos. This was a little bit of a rant today, but maybe a little bit enlightening. That's kind of what goes on with transportation provided by the insurance. If you haven't checked my other videos, check them out. I hope you enjoyed the content. Really glad you're here. Love you all. And as always, take care of your mind. Bye for now.